Hi, this is Mrs. Slater, and today we're going to talk about formulas. When will these be used? Grades. And what a better way to emphasize this section with something that you're going to use. So when you find grades in your math class, in my particular math class, I take 80% of the quarter 1 and quarter 2 combined, so that would actually be a number divided by 2, and then 20% of your final. So you have to check to PowerSchool to see what you have for that final grade, and then you also have an unknown because we don't know what your final exam grade is, but the semester grade is something that you have as a goal. Okay, so in order to solve and find out how much you need to percentage you need to get on your final exam, it's just an easier way to know already what you can prepare for the night before the final exam. Alright, so it goes something like this, where since F is the first letter of final, I'm going to use F for that one, and this is going to be the quarter grades that I put together, and this semester grade I'm just going to call S. So if I'm getting F all by itself, the first thing I want to do is get 0.8, I want to get that to the other side. So it would look something like this. 0.2 of the final exam grade equals the semester grade minus 0.8 of the quarter grades. Okay, and you can get that from PowerSchool, and this again is your goal. The semester grade is your goal. Alright, and then how would I get F all by itself? Is by dividing both sides by 0.2. Now you can use this and check PowerSchool right after you're done with your video. So that is going to be a quick way to find your grade without having to solve the problem every single time. So for example, the semester grade goal is 90%. My quarters combined are 88%. Okay, so I'm going to use those two numbers and plug it in. So it would be 90 minus 0.8 times 88 all over 0.2. And when I do the order of operations, I end up with 98%. So going into this final, if I can get a 98% on my final exam, then I know I can get an A- in the class. Okay, and that's how you use it. And you can use that as well for your algebra class. Okay, so now let's go on to some other formulas. Like in this one, you see that we have a lot of fractions here, so it's very similar to what we've been dealing with already with finding the least common denominator of all these. And it looks like I'm going to have to multiply everything by big R, little r1, and little r2. And keep that consistent because it'll get confusing if you start changing big R's and little r's. Just keep them all the same. So once I multiply through on that first one, I end up with r1 and r2. And that I set equal to the next one, which cancels out the r1, so I have r and r2. And then the finale is going to be r1. Okay, our goal is to get r1 by itself, and I notice that there are two of them. So I need to get them on one side. So that would look like this, r1, r2 minus r1. So we're using the same operations to try to get different things by themselves. And because there it's r1, we're going to factor it out. r2 minus r would be left over. And now that I only have one r1, I'll be able to divide both sides by this binomial for the final answer. Now again, these are done as shortcuts. Your calculator does formulas all the time, and they're also called functions, where you can just plug numbers into a formula like this instead of repeating the process over and over again with the original formula. Okay, let's go ahead and try the next one. And as you can see, there are only two fractions, so we can cross multiply in this one. So W sub 1 times D sub 2, sorry about that little black mark, and W2 times D1. Okay, and since we are solving for W2, we have to get this one all by itself, and we can divide by D1 and make that happen. So those cancel, and then that would leave us with our final answer. All right. The next example 3 is going to be solving for V1, And you'll notice there's only one of them in the picture, right there. And we want to get that by itself. So one of the first things, if you see fraction, let's go ahead and multiply through by 2, just like we did in the previous lesson, so we don't have to deal with fractions anymore. So multiplying everything by 2 leaves us with the following equation. Okay, now again we're trying to get v1 by itself, so this has got to go to the other side. And we can do that legally by subtracting v2r to the other side, leaving us with v1 t. And then the last thing, since this is multiplication, we can just divide by t and be done, because the t's are going to cancel. v1 is all by itself, and voila. Multiply by that common denominator, and then get rid of those fractions, and then just subtract and then divide. Okay, the next one we're solving for g. Now notice there are 2 g's in the original, so you have to be very careful. Also, how do we get rid of fractions? We can multiply both sides by g plus s. G plus s, and look at that. So we have g plus s times r equals gs. And again, we still have 2 g's, so we have to get them together on one side of the equation. So we have gr plus sr equals gs. And the g's we want to get on one side, so sr equals gs minus gr. And now that the g's are together, you can factor them out and divide by s minus r for the last step. Okay, so that's gone, and there's our final answer. Let me rewrite it just to make sure you have this. That's supposed to be an r, so it's s, r, and let me start over there as well, because it's little s, big R, over little s minus big R equals g. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. And I'm going to put the final answer. So I want you to work your magic and see if you can get this as your final answer. Same with 6. The answer to 6 is little n equals I r over e minus I little r. Okay, go ahead and do those. And then the last one, try this one as well. You're going to have to cross multiply, do a little distributive property, and then get t all by itself to look like this. So t sub 1 equals h plus s m t to the second all over s m. All right, so good luck, and you have those 3 problems to bring to class tomorrow.